श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं, श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं, मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। Prams everyone. So in this introduction to Vedanta, we had been seeing, initially we saw human goals to be four: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, or Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. And then within that, Moksha is the ultimate goal that every jiva should strive for. And Moksha as a goal, there are three sets of sadhanas. First step is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga gives Chitta Shuddhi. Then Upasana Yoga, which gives Chitta Ekagrata. And then Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is the last step. And Jnana Yoga is divided into three steps: Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. And what this knowledge, this Jnana Yoga is about is the knowledge of self. The knowledge of self, knowledge of Ishvara, knowledge of this Jagat, and the relations between these three. Once we attain this knowledge, once we are able to internalize this knowledge, once we are able to make this knowledge into our personality, we are in the state of moksha. And what is the state of moksha? Moksha is a state of emotional independence, where my happiness is not dependent on anybody, where I am completely free from all wants. So I am always in the state of ananda, where there is freedom from sorrow, freedom from all the negative qualities that my mind could potentially have. And another benefit of this moksha is we are also free from the samsara cycle, the cycle of birth and death. So there is no more birth for this jiva. There is no reason for us to be born as any insect, animal or plant or a human, or even for that matter a deva or asura. So we are immortal. We become immortal. It's not that we vanish, we are immortal. That has to be understood a little carefully. When we come to discuss what is Brahman, what is moksha, once again we will be able to understand that better. Now Jnana Yoga, to come to the Jnana Yoga stage, for this knowledge is very subtle, and for this knowledge to get into our mind, into our personality, we need to have certain qualifications. We were seeing these qualifications the last class, Sadhana Chatushtayam, fourfold qualifications: Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutvam and Shatka Sampatti. Viveka is discrimination, Vairagya is dispassion, Mumukshutvam is the desire for moksha, and Shatka Sampatti is discipline, sixfold discipline. And we saw last class was Viveka. Viveka is basically the ability to discriminate between what is permanent and what is impermanent. And when we do a vichara, we will come to know that anything in this world or everything in this world is impermanent. It is anitya vastu. And the world includes our body as well. I can see from my experience, I can understand from my experience, I can also understand from other people's experience to know that nothing in this world is actually permanent. And Shastra says even the lokas that we are aspiring for, sometimes some people aspire for Swarga lokas, even those lokas are all impermanent. So through the concepts of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava, we can understand that there is nothing in this world that is permanent. Then the question is there something that is permanent then? And Shastra says there is Brahman. And Brahman is permanent. And for a sadhaka at an initial stages, this Brahman is nothing but Ishvara. So what the Shastra says is there is this permanent principle called Brahman, and there is this impermanent world. And then once we understand that there is this permanent and impermanent principles, then the next sadhana, the vairagya, the dispassion should be on the impermanent principles. We should develop an attitude of viragaha, no strong likes or dislikes on the impermanent principle. And on the permanent principle, namely Brahman, we will have to develop a desire to attain that, a desire to understand that. And that is called as mumukshutvam. So this Jagat Anityam is something we come to know through Shastras, through our own experience. This Brahma Satyam or Brahma Nityam can be understood only through Shastras. And that is why when we discussed Jnana Yoga, we said Shastras are the Pramanas. Only Shastras can help us understand Brahman. We cannot experience Brahman. Brahman is not something that can be experienced. So we have to understand it. On the Anitya Vastu, we said there has to be dispassion towards it. What is dispassion? Basically, no psychological leaning for the sake of security and support. Again, when we say it is only from the standpoint of security and support and not from the standpoint of other things that the world can provide us. So, this vairagyam, viragasya bhavaha, is something that has to be brought in from a emotional standpoint. The viveka has to go through the intellect. The intellect, when it is sufficiently convinced, and once we are able to follow, once we are able to make that into our personality, then it becomes vairagya. Just by having viveka, one will not have vairagya. So, again, vairagya means psychological independence. Do not rely upon the worldly objects. And when we say worldly objects, it is people, relations, objects, possessions, situations. None of them can give us permanent happiness. None of them can give us permanent security. We think money can give us security, therefore we earn money. then sooner or later we will be in a position where we are giving security to the money. We will have to make sure that we keep it inside a cupboard, lock it, then we keep it in the bank, make sure that we actually look into the bank balance every day to see whether there has been no other transactions on it, or when we put on a stock market, we keep looking at it to make sure that it doesn't drop, the prices don't drop. So instead of money providing us security, we will be providing security to the money. So nothing in this world can give us permanent security, permanent happiness. Many of us would know that. So many of us know that the world is anitya, but we still do not get this vairagya. So somehow we have viveka, but we don't get vairagya. And why do some people commit that mistake, that even when having viveka, they are not able to convert to vairagya? It's just an example I'll give you. Say, for example, we know that all doctors know alcohol consumption and cigarette smoking is injurious to health. All doctors know that. But still many doctors drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes. So if we have to see from a viveka standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint, definitely the doctors do understand the ill effects of nicotine and alcohol. They understand it much better than any of us. In spite of that, they still get into that habit. So having viveka does not automatically lead us to vairagya. We have to understand that. To get vairagya, we need to put separate effort for that. And that is why even in the sadhana chatushtayam, we have this as a separate sadhana. Viveka is separate, vairagya is separate. And it is not a question of time by when I will get vairagya. Some people will say, you become so old, can't you not control your desires? That doesn't happen. It is not a question of time by when somebody would get vairagya. Only through continuous sadhana. Some people will have to put effort. Only through continuous sadhana one will be able to get vairagya. And vairagya does not mean aversion. We have to understand that clearly. Some people have this feeling that vairagya means kind of aversion or veruppu in Tamil they say. Veruppu of worldly things, aversion towards worldly things. Vairagya does not mean that. Vairagya does not mean that one has to run away from this world. Vairagya does not mean that one has to reject this world. It is, I do need this world. Everybody needs this world. And only in this world even moksha is even possible. But what I shouldn't be looking for is security and support from this world. When I say support, not physical support. It is emotional support. So with regards to vairagya, it is about an attitude that I have on all the worldly things. Just like if I have two chairs, like one is made of teak, another is made of cardboard. One I can use it for sitting, the other I can only use it for decoration. I can only place it in my cupboard. So the world is like a cardboard chair. I cannot sit on it. It will look nice, it might look realistic, but it cannot carry my weight. A wooden chair would make more sense. So similarly, with regards to this emotional security or support, Ishvara is my wooden chair, the world is my cardboard chair. And we said we should not develop this habit of aversion to get Vairagya. Initially, to start with, to wean away our independence to wean away our dependence on objects. It is okay to have some amount of aversion. It is okay to have some amount of aversion to start off, because sometimes we will be too attached to certain things that to break it, you need to have some bit of an aversion, some bit of a fight, but over time we should make sure that this aversion is converted into a udasina bhava. Udasina bhava meaning an indifferent attitude. It is not in the negative sense. Indifferent attitude is it's not like he is being indifferent to me. It's a person who is not, it is not a question of actually neglecting. It is more a question of being neutral. Udasina here means being neutral. The presence or absence is not going to create a like or a dislike in my mind. It's called as udasina bhava. So the next question is, what is that which is actually keeping me attached to this? What is that is keeping me attached to these worldly things? The answer is moha, delusion. We have a delusion on worldly objects. What is delusion? Delusion can be defined as something. Delusion can be defined as having a value much more than what it is actually. Having a value, if you are having a value on something which is much more than it is actually actual value, then its actual value, then it is called as moha. Some people as kids would have collected some chocolate papers, some dry flowers, all those things keeping inside the books and others. And the value that we associate for that is much more than the actual value. It's a question of actually we are having a moham on that object. We are basically giving it much more. We are giving the power to it. We are adding more value to it than it actually is. So if there are strong mohas, if there are strong delusions in our mind, then we might need to use aversion initially to get over that. It could be used as a step to get Vairagya. But we should soon cross over that aversion. Remember, neither like nor dislike, neither strong likes nor strong dislikes. And in our concept, we don't even use the word hate. It's a very it's very Western, and it's probably today everybody likes to use this. I hate it. I hate drinking coffee. I hate it. In our culture, we never say hate. There shouldn't be a word there shouldn't be something that we should hate. Because for us, everything is Ishvara. Hate as a feeling should not be there in our mind at all. When Bhagavan Krishna describes Jnani, the first quality he says in chapter 12 of Gita, Adveshta Sarvabhutana. A jnani does not have hatred on anything, Sarvabhutanam, on any living objects. Anything, Sarvabhutana. That is the first and foremost quality of a jnani. So even as a sadhaka, for us hate shouldn't be an emotion. We can say dislike, but even that should be slowly brought down. So initially, whenever we are in a state of moha, we may have to use aversion to get over, but we should soon cross over that. How? So this is one way to get vairagya. What is the other way to actually do that? When I see an object in the world, I should not see that object as an object of enjoyment, as a bhoga vastu. I should not see that as an object of enjoyment. Rather, I should see it as Ishvara Srishti. It is a creation from Ishvara. Whenever we see that as an object of enjoyment, we start developing a sense of attachment to it. Our mind immediately gets attached to it. And our mind gets into the stage of moha. It starts putting in more value than what it is supposed to be. And the more value that you put, the more stronger you get attached to. And the more sorrows it is going to give us. Vairagya is about removing the relation of a bhokta and a bhoga vastu. Vairagya is about cutting that relationship between an object of enjoyment and the subject. In chapter 13 of Gita, Bhagavan gives another way to attain Vairagya. He gives a upaya. He gives a way to get Vairagya. One is, he says, constantly keep reflecting about Viveka. Keep reflecting on Viveka. It will slowly convert into Vairagya. It may take time, but it will convert. But it will happen slowly. And what is the sloka? It says, Indriyarteshu Vairagyam Anahankara Evacha Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. He says, you see the dukkha and dosha of this world. And he says, darshana. Darshana means see it, do that vichara, do that viveka, do that nitya anitya vastu viveka. And he says, dukkha dosha anudarshanam. And he says, where is the dukkham and the dosham? Dukkha dosham is there. So the sorrow, the fault of sorrow lies. And where it lies? He says, janma mrityu jara vyadi. In birth, there is a pain, there is a sorrow. Jara, janma mrityu, death is there. Whenever our family member, whenever a close relative, whenever a close person close to us, when they die, there is pain, there is sorrow. Janma mrityu, jara. Old age is a sorrow, old age is a pain. Sometimes old age can be a curse. for both the people living and for the people around. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, needless to say, disease. Somebody gets hospitalized, it is a lot of work, lot of effort, lot of pain, lot of sorrow that both the person as well as the people around would have to go through. So Bhagavan says, constantly see this dosha, constantly reflect on it. Find there are flaws in this system, in this world. There are defects. These are faults in the worldly objects. Constantly reflect upon that. And if you constantly reflect upon that, you will get Vairagya slowly. But one thing we have to understand, when we are attached or addicted to something, when we are closely attached or so closely addicted to something, or even that could be a person, if because we like them, we are so attached, we want to be with them, we don't want to leave their company, we want to be always with them. When you're so closely attached to something or somebody, it is difficult to get Vairagya on that. And therefore, because we are so close, we will not be able to see the dukkha dosham also. We will not be able to see the sorrow that that attachment is going to bring us. What happens is, when there are some issues, only then, at the time when we get unhappy with that object or with that person, or if we are treated badly, or if we are insulted, what happens? It immediately turns into hatred. It immediately turns into aversion. We try to criticize, we try to hit back. So we get that aversion or hatred immediately. At that time we will have to convert that into Vairagya. What we don't do is we don't use those opportunities. Whenever sorrow comes in our life, whenever the world gives us pain, whenever the world humiliates us, whenever the world somebody insults us, that is the time we should be able to convert them into Vairagya. That is the time when Ishvara is giving us an opportunity to see the dukkha dosha anudarshanam, to see the dukkha dosha. So at that point of time, we should not criticize Ishvara. Why are you giving me pain? Why are you giving me sorrow? Why are you giving me this insult? Instead, we should be thankful to him. Because these places, if we are able to apply our sadhanas, then we will be able to fast track our spiritual growth. We should be instead thankful to Ishvara, to say, Ishvara, thank you for giving me this situation. This helps me attain more Vairagya. This helps me to understand this world better. I am getting greater conviction on my Viveka. But even to do that, to get that mindset, to be able to identify these situations and to actually take lessons out of these situations. Normally what we do is, we either try to reconcile with the same person if it is the attachment is too much, or we actually develop a hatred, aversion, we have this feeling of vengeance and all those things built up. Or if we are slightly more mature, then what we do is, we try to separate from the person and try to look for another object or another person to whom we can get attached. A true sadhaka would be able to identify the opportunities and convert those situations into Vairagya opportunities. But when can this happen? When will I be able to convert these opportunities? When will I be able to see these situations and convert them into opportunities? only when I do Karma Yoga. When we do Karma Yoga, we will be able to develop this attitude quickly. All the Panchamaha Yajnas, which we do, Bhuta Yajna, Manushya Yajna, Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Brahma Yajna, this Panchamaha Yajnas that we do, when we do those Yajnas, we do that without any expectation. When we keep doing that without any expectation, we know that irrespective of how the other person is going to treat me, I am going to do my Yajna. I am going to do my contribution. And at that point of time, I'll be able to see this Viveka. I'll be able to reflect on Viveka, and I'll be able to get my Vairagya. So now, next question. Okay, can I save myself to save myself? From tomorrow, I am going to get Vairagya. From tomorrow 9 a.m., I am going to start on Vairagya. It is not possible. Vairagya cannot happen immediately. It will take time. And it depends on every person's mind, their own mindset, and not only on their person's mind, but also on the objects. Each person will have different levels of attachment on different things. So it is to get Vairagya on certain things could be faster. To get Vairagya on certain things could be long. And as we read Shastras, as we read Puranas, we can get Vairagya. Because Shastras would keep reminding us in terms of how fleeting this world is. It keeps reminding us. And as we do Viveka Abhyasa along with Shastra Shravana, we will be able to get Vairagya. And as I told in the last class itself, Vairagya is a very important qualification. Actually, a person's success in spiritual life, it does not depend on how many Upanishads this person has read, how many Upanishads he knows, how much of Gita he knows, how much can he bring from memory. Nothing of that sort. A person's spiritual maturity can be only measured by how much of Vairagya that person has. So if at all we say, is there a spiritual scale for me to measure my spiritual progress, then it has to be the Vairagya scale. Only Vairagya will tell me how much I have progressed. I will have to do that. Again, I cannot do it on others. I may not even get others to do it on me. It has to be, this whole journey is about how I change myself, how am I able to reflect on what I do and how much I know myself. So this is Vairagya scale. Then the next question. Why is Vairagya, why does a person not get Vairagya so easily? Because every jiva in this world, not just every jiva in this world, including plants and animals, we see the world as a bhoga vastu. What we want continuous, unlimited, permanent pleasure. We want continuous, unlimited, permanent pleasure from this world. It is not easy. The world is not meant for that. The world, wherever there is pleasure, there will be pain. Wherever there is joy, there will be sorrow. In fact, the world is full of dvandas, pairs of opposites. I talk about good health in my 30s and 40s. Then I have to talk about ill health and disease in my 50s and 60s. So nothing in this world is going to give me permanent, unlimited, continuous supply of pleasure. What I should be looking at is to see the world as a transactional purpose only. My real goal is not to, I have to tell myself, my real goal is not to actually take pleasure from this world. That is not why I was born here. My real objective is to attain moksha. And for that, I will have to start looking at world for what it is. I should not get deluded that the world will give me happiness, that the world will give me security, that the world will support me emotionally. The world is there, it is meant for certain things. It's meant for my education, it's meant for my understanding these relations, it is meant for me to contribute, it is meant for me to take experiences from others, but not for getting pleasure out of it. Even for us, when we look back, before I came to this Shastras, before I started, I thought that the purpose of this life, or I came to this world, is to make money, be able to enjoy life, live in comfort. And I thought if I am able to do that, I am a successful man. But we have these notions. But over a period of time, we know that the world is not going to give me comfort throughout. Nobody is going to be in comfort 24/7, 365 days a year throughout their life. However rich they may be, nobody is going to be happy throughout their life. It's not possible. So that mindset has to change. We have to change that mindset to say, I am here for a purpose. This world is not going to satisfy that purpose. Then the next question comes in. Why do I need to have this vairagya? I mean, why at all we need vairagya? Can we not ignore vairagya and then still pursue moksha? Right now, our mind is always focused on all these worldly things. I'm thinking of my job, I'm thinking of my family, I'm thinking of where to invest, I'm thinking of what happened to the stock market, I'm thinking of kids' education, daughter's marriage, my retirement, parents' health, my future, all those things. All these are worldly things. As long as I am focused on all these worldly things, my mind is not available for Ishvara. It is only attached to Artha and Kama. It is not available for moksha. And if my mind is not available for moksha, which is the most important instrument by which I should be able to get my moksha, then as long as it is in Artha Kama, I will not be able to get moksha. So vairagya, only through vairagya I will be able to take away my mind from all these arthakamas and be able to put it on, give time for Ishvara, give time for moksha. So that's the reason why we need Vairagya. The next question, okay, now that if I get Vairagya, will that give me moksha? Vairagya is an important milestone. It is an important milestone for moksha. But even after that, the mind could have some kind of vikshepa. Vikshepa means disturbance. The mind could have some disturbance because of these things around, things that are happening around me. So we need some kind of self-discipline. So Vairagya alone will not give me moksha. So I need to, just by having Vairagya, if I am able to do Shravana, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, will I be able to get moksha? Even then it is not possible. Because there are still, my mind is away from Arthakama, but still that mind could be disturbed with other things, which can be sorted out, which can be made better. The mind can be made better by the Shatka Sampatti discipline, the sixfold discipline that we talked about. So before going to Mumukshutva, we will go to take the Shatka Sampatti. Shatka Sampatti. Before I go to Shatka Sampatti, I want to ask if there are any questions on Vairagya. Maybe we'll finish this questions on Vairagya before we go to Shatka Sampatti. Practically speaking about Karma Yoga, it is difficult to do our duty without raga or dvesha. This is because what helps us to do what is required of us is a sense of discrimination. Only a dislike of a wrong thought / action can make us like a correct thought / action. This is an observation about our duty as a grihastha. An absence of such discrimination will disable us from doing our duty. Can I understand what do you mean by sense of discrimination? Do you mean viveka here? Practically speaking about Karma Yoga, it is difficult to do our duty without raga or desha. Why it would be difficult to do our duty without raga or desha? Viveka, yes, okay. Why it would be difficult to do duty without raga or desha? There are certain things, so many things that we are doing. I'll take typical example. Many of the women in the house, right? Ideally left to themselves, they would want to wake up late. But they still get up early in the morning to do things that are needed for the children and their husband, and then they still are able to do it. So they do it as a sense of duty. A mother does it as a sense of duty towards the children. So, and similarly a wife does it as a sense of duty to husband. Many of the husbands would not want to go to the job. They would want to laze around in the house, but they do it as a sense of duty. So, and sometimes you will have to do it without raga or dvesha because you have to do it. So I don't understand. Practically speaking about Karma Yoga, it is difficult to do our duty without raga or dvesha. I am not able to get that. Only a dislike of a wrong thought or an action can make us like a correct thought or action. Yes, a dislike of a wrong thought or action, or dislike of the consequences of a wrong thought or action can also make us like a correct thought or action. But technically speaking, that is what I am saying is, it is easy to do a sin. To perform a sin, it comes naturally to us. We don't need to take any effort. To inculcate a bad habit, it comes naturally. it will come automatically to us. We stay there for some time, we will be able to get it. But to inculcate good values, to inculcate virtues, to do a good deed, one has to make an effort. And how can you stop somebody from doing a papa? Papa by nature, everybody loves to do papa because it is easy, it gives me immediate benefit, at least it seems so, and it is satisfying my desires. That is the main reason we do papa. We do papa because we want that. And how can you actually make somebody not do a papa? One is to create the dislike on that action. But an action, I am not going to get dislike of the action because that is going to satisfy my desire. Only way I can do that is by actually disliking the results of that action. I should be convinced that the papa that I do is going to give me sorrowful situations in future. I should have this trust in karma that whatever bad things that I do is going to come back. And whatever bad things that I am experiencing today is because of the bad things that I had done before. If I have that conviction, only that will stop me from actually not doing a job, not doing an action which is wrong. So, as long as the action is going to satisfy my desires, the general tendency is to do it. So the way to actually handle that is actually to say, I should be wary of the results of that action, which means papa is going to give me dukkam, sorrow, pain at a later stage. So I should not be doing this. An absence of such discrimination will disable us from doing, an absence of viveka will disable us from doing our duty. Viveka, yeah, I think you mean as long as I am having viveka, I will continue to do my duty in spite of knowing that this is not permanent. Is that how you want me to read that? So I know that these relationships are temporary. Yes, please. Yes, please, you can speak. Hello. Hari Om. Okay. Okay, no worries. So we'll take it in the next class probably when you are ready. Any other questions? Okay. So if there are no questions, we'll go to Sadhana Chatushtayam. Sadhana Chatushtayam is sixfold discipline. Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutvam and Shatka Sampatti. We have seen Viveka, we have seen Vairagya. Now we are seeing Shatka Sampatti. Shatka means sixfold. Shatka Sampatti. Sixfold inner discipline. It's a personal discipline. It is a kind of a self-management techniques that we may have to use here. So it is we have to bring in some kind of inner discipline for us, within us, so that we manage ourselves first before we try to manage others. And if we are able to manage ourselves better, then to manage others become easy, much more easy. And the 6 disciplines are, I'll just list down first. Samaha. Samaha means tranquility or mental discipline, we can say. Samaha. Then the next one is damaha. Damaha means sense control. There mind control, here it is sense control. Samaha, damaha, uparamaha. Uparamaha or uparamati, they say. Uparamati is, we can say, as reduction of extrovert activities. Reduction of extrovert activities. Uparamaha. Then fourth one is titiksha. Titiksha has got two meanings. One is endurance or forbearance, the ability to endure. The other one is patience. Titiksha also means patience. Then the fifth one is Shraddha. Shraddha means trust. Actually, there is no equivalent word in English for this, or we can say implicit trust. Shraddha. Then the sixth one is Samadhanam. Samadhanam means concentration. So, Shamaha, Damaha, Uparamaha, Shraddha, Titiksha, Samadhanam. So we will see Shamaha first. Shamaha means mental discipline, mind control. And or you can say tranquility, that inner tranquility that we can build in our mind. Or we can say mastery over the mind. Or if you want to put it in a simple language, you can say calm mind. Calm mind. The thing is, our mind is always constantly involved in a lot of all these worldly activities. We sometimes don't even know where our mind is. Even in this class, probably we don't know, halfway through our mind has gone away. We don't know where the mind has gone. We do not have any control on our mind most of the times. Because we don't give the time to actually see what is in our mind. We don't reflect to see what is in our mind. We use the mind to see the world, but we do not see our mind. Remember, the mind is not seeing the world. We use the mind to see the world, but we do not actually see what is in our mind. And there is some prayers where actually, some bhaktas ask, "Oh Bhagwan, oh Ishvara, please give me my mind. Because my mind is not with me. This mind keeps wandering away. So please give me back my mind." So this mind is a very important instrument. So Shamaha is a discipline by which the mind, which is extrovert in nature, is brought into some control. And for us to understand Shamaha, we need to understand the workings of the mind a little bit in depth. How does a mind work? When does a mind get disturbed? Or when do we get this vikshepa? We will see that in the next class. Any questions so far? Can Shraddha be called devotion? Shraddha is actually little more than devotion. Devotion comes under Shraddha. Let's put this way. Shraddha Bhakti, we say. Dedication, we can say dedication is a common term. And as I said, there is no equivalent word in English for Shraddha. Shraddha is an implicit trust which we have on something until it is converted into knowledge. So I have this faith or trust or belief in something with the hope and with the conviction that it is going to convert it into a knowledge. So the Shraddha that I have on Shastras, the Shraddhas that I have in Guru's sayings, the Shraddha that I have on Ishvara is such that I have some beliefs to start with, but later on I should be able to convert them into my knowledge and make it into my knowledge. So it should be a knowledge with conviction. So that period until when I get that knowledge is called the period of Shraddha. Anyway, we'll see that in next class. Any other question? Okay. If not, we'll see it again in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha. Gobrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. See you in next class.